Jason never expected to be in this scenario again. Surrounded by confusion, deception, and danger wrapped in a familiar face. Britt had returned, or so it appeared. Everyone in Port Charles had been treading on emotional glass since she reappeared. Her death had left an indelible impression, and her surprising return sparked shock, hope, and unanswered questions. Jason had felt the most wobbly. His relationship with Britt had been genuine, quiet, deep, and a rare link he never expected to experience again. Her loss plagued him, and the miracle of her return seemed almost too good to be true. And now, standing face to face with her in this shadowy, isolated area, he was about to see how correct his gut instinct was. The woman who resembled Britt had been acting strangely. There were hints of recognition. Her wit, her keen gaze, the way she spoke with warmth and sarcasm. But something was never really aligned. Jason had looked at her more intently than he let on. Her speech cadence was somewhat off, her emotional outbursts were often overly orchestrated, and her memory lapses were too well timed. He didn't want to distrust her, especially after everything they'd been through. But Jason Morgan never ignored his intuition. This time had arrived after several days of monitoring and internal strife. He had followed her around the corridors of General Hospital, studied her exchanges with Liesel and Nina, and noted how she avoided discussing the past. The red flags began to fly, and when she came upon a simple narrative that only the genuine Britt would know, Jason's protective instincts kicked in. He set up this encounter under the pretense of seeking privacy, even intimacy. He genuinely needed the truth. She sat across from him, sipping coffee and shaking her fingers slightly. Her eyes darted excessively. She resembled Britt, but Jason noticed the flaws in the illusion. He remained silent for a bit, hoping she would say something revealing. Instead, she remained quiet, her eyes narrowing as if she sensed a shift in the room. Then he moved faster than she could respond. One hand grasped her wrist, while the other moved to her face. She fought back, but not sufficiently. Not like Britt would have. His hand grasped the seam behind her ear and pulled. The mask came off. The skin beneath was not the same. The illusion was destroyed as a stranger emerged, wearing Britt's face like a costume. The eyes were not Britt's. They were colder, more calculating, and now terrified at having been exposed. Jason paused for a second, 1,000 memories rushing through his thoughts as his heart sunk. Whoever this was, it was not Britt. She was gone. Still gone. And someone went to great measures to persuade everyone otherwise. The woman backed away, scrambling, rage on her face. She snarled something in a low voice, perhaps expecting Jason to be overcome with emotion. But he wasn't. His fury was icy, and his intent was crystal apparent. "Who are you?" he said, his voice unsettlingly calm. She did not respond right away. Her chest heaved as her mind raced, and the carefully woven web around her collapsed in seconds. Jason took a step. "Talk," he instructed. She laughed without conviction. "Would it have actually made a difference?" she inquired. "You wanted to believe it so badly." He didn't flinch. "I buried her. I knew she'd gone. However, you made everyone question it." "Why?" The woman finally stood up, the mask hanging from her fingers like a snake shedding its skin. "It wasn't about you, Jason. It was about access. Leverage. I needed to be someone you'd trust." She went on to explain in fragments that she was working for someone else. Someone who was aware of Jason's limited but strong emotional links. Britt had been one of them. Bringing her back was part of a wider scheme. They had plans for Port Charles, and Jason's response to seeing Britt again gave them the opportunity they needed. But she had made a mistake. A few, actually. Enough for Jason to see through the mask, both literally and metaphorically. "You played with grief," he exclaimed, his voice raspy. "That's not leverage. That's war." She attempted to justify herself with logic, sensible reasons about survival and espionage, but nothing worked. Jason was not interested in strategy. He was concerned with justice, not just for himself but for the actual Britt. He remembered her in every quiet moment they spent together, every time she challenged him, and made him laugh when he didn't believe he could. That woman had vanished, and this imposter had dragged her memory through the mud. The unmasking became widely known. Liesel Albrecht was the first to arrive. and the anguish on her face was worse than anything Jason had experienced. She dashed towards the woman, yelling Britt's name at first, then stopped when she realized the person standing in front of her was a stranger. Liesel's voice cracked as she demanded answers, her face contorted with rage and despair. Jason intervened before she could attack the imposter, despite he didn't want to stop her. The police arrived next. Anna, seeming upset yet collected, took command of the situation. She questioned the woman extensively, piecing together a story that crossed continents. It turned out that such impersonations had happened before. The organization behind it specialized in infiltration. The woman, whose real name remains unknown, was a skilled agent schooled in psychological manipulation. She had been assigned to enter Port Charles using Britt's persona as a weapon. Their target? Not only Jason, the entire hospital, and perhaps Sunny's organization. Jason became more quiet as the layers peeled back. The treachery hurt more than he imagined. Everyone was applauding him for revealing the truth, but all he could think about was the moment he saw Britt's face again and decided to believe. He despised how readily hope had slid into his heart. He should have known better. Hope was a luxury he could seldom afford. That night, he returned to the bridge where he and Britt had stood, looking out into the sea. He peered into the darkness, attempting to calm the fury within him. He remembered her humor, her candor, and the way she challenged him. The real Britt was many things. Flawed, courageous, unpredictable. But she was always genuine. No mask could ever capture her essence. Sam found him some hours later. She did not speak right away. I stood beside him watching the river move below. She understood. She understood what it felt like to have what you thought was lost return, only to learn it was a deception. Finally, she softly placed her hand on Jason's shoulder. She would have hated this, Sam replied quietly. Jason nodded. She deserved better. In the days that followed, Port Charles recovered, albeit with scars. The imposter was apprehended, and further investigations revealed more concerning findings. Compromised medical records, stolen identities, and a network of operatives with additional masks placed in plain sight. Trust became a scarce commodity in the city. And in the midst of it all, Jason moved like a ghost. Focused, more guarded than ever, but not unharmed. He went to Britt's cemetery again, this time alone. No mask. No falsehoods. It's just him and the truth. He knelt, placed a single white rose on the gravestone, and whispered the things he never had the opportunity to speak before she died. You mattered. And I will not let them delete you. He stood and walked away without looking back. Whoever initiated the battle had underestimated him. They believed that shattering his heart would make him weak. However, it had only hardened his edge. The game had shifted and Jason Morgan was seeking answers, justice, and perhaps a new kind of peace. But for the time being, he would recall the woman behind the genuine face and allow her memories to guide him through the shadows. General Hospital rumors and updates suggest that Jocelyn Jacks and Britt Westbourne may be planning a surprise meeting. The clandestine mission at the Five Poppies Resort may take an unexpected turn, so we should consider how events could unfold. Brennan is sending Jocelyn and Vaughn on a mission to appear to be newlyweds, which means they must spend 2 weeks at the resort to maintain this romantic image. The actual goal is for Vaughn and Jocelyn to conduct an inquiry now that their attention has changed from Professor Henry Hank Dalton. Clearly, there is much more information to be discovered in this Dalmatian resort, where Jocelyn and Vaughn will conduct their investigation. Jocelyn would never expect to meet Britt at the Five Poppies. As far as Joss knows, Britt died a hero after saving her from Heather Weber's poisoned hook. As a result, it would be a huge shock if Jocelyn ran across Britt someplace on the premises. Jocelyn and Britt may run into each other anywhere, including the ladies' room. It's easy to imagine Jocelyn enjoying a supper with Vaughn at one of the resort's restaurants, and perhaps she'll excuse herself to use the ladies' room. This might provide Jocelyn with the opportunity to run into Britt, possibly in a dramatic form if GH wishes to heighten the drama. Jocelyn may collide with the lady who previously saved her life and is thought to be dead, prompting a flurry of questions on her part. Naturally, Britt will have her own questions if she discovers that Jocelyn is allegedly on her honeymoon and under an identity. This may turn into a tricky situation for both of them, so Britt might suggest that they keep each other's secrets. You keep my secret, I keep yours? Britt might reassure Jocelyn that if she pretends she never saw her, she will keep quiet about seeing Joss there as well. Jocelyn could suffer major consequences for keeping such a significant secret from Brennan. But Britt could also gain advantage by revealing Jocelyn's secret and jeopardizing her new employment. Furthermore, because Jocelyn owes Britt her life, she may feel compelled to remain silent about this meeting if Britt wishes. If this all happens without Vaughn present, Jocelyn might consider giving Britt her quiet. However, Jason Morgan is already on a quest to confirm Britt's survival and will soon be reunited with her. What will Joss do if they meet again? Jocelyn had been traveling quickly, following instinct rather than logic, when she found herself standing before the rusting gate of a warehouse on the outskirts of Port Charles. The trail she'd followed was more of a hunch, a fragmented succession of overheard conversations and half-truths exchanged by people attempting to conceal something. But Jocelyn couldn't deny her inner feeling. Something was wrong. She had not expected to see Britt Westbourne there. That section took her completely by surprise. The warehouse wasn't really abandoned. Light crept through a few tall windows, twisted and frightening. The interior was half-packed with old shipping crates and crates that appeared new and out of place. Jocelyn slid between them, stooping low, her phone clutched securely in one hand, thumb poised to press record or call at the first indication of trouble. She was thinking about Dalton and the bizarre signals he'd gotten, which he dismissed too soon. She was thinking about Trina and how they had become too near to something that people preferred to keep hidden. And suddenly she heard a voice. Calm, frigid, and trimmed. "Who in the hell are you?" Jocelyn turned, surprised to see Britt standing behind her, arms folded, eyes blazing with quick calculating. Britt wasn't on the list of people she expected to encounter here. Dangerous smugglers or even Sonny's rivals. She also looked different. Not only did she look stunning in all black with a leather jacket zipped around her neck, but she also exuded confidence. Dr. Britt Westbourne's carefully cultivated persona and hospital polish were no longer present. This Britt appeared to be in charge of something, and it was not the type of thing one would put on a CV. Jocelyn gazed, speechless. "I could ask you the same thing," she finally answered, her voice stronger than she felt. Britt's eyes narrowed. "You shouldn't be here." "You either," Jocelyn shot back. "Unless you've got some late-night surgery scheduled in the middle of a warehouse." Their tension was palpable. Britt appeared to be mentally calculating 100 possible possibilities, none of which included Jocelyn walking away with the truth. But then something unexpected occurred. Britt let out a harsh sigh and turned away, taking a few steps before coming to a stop. This was supposed to be a simple drop, she said to herself rather than to Jocelyn. Jocelyn did not move. What type of drop? Medicinal supplies. For the clinic. Britt peered over her shoulder, her voice tinged with contempt. Jocelyn didn't buy it. Not exactly. Are you doing charity work now? At midnight? In secret? Britt turned fully around and walked back toward Jocelyn. Look, I won't explain every decision I make to you. I had a reason to be here, and I didn't believe anyone else would be stupid enough to show here. Jocelyn stood firm, even as discomfort spread down her spine. There was something in Britt's eyes. An edge, a warning. That indicated this wasn't simply about medical supplies. Jocelyn had gotten herself into a far more complicated situation, and Britt had no idea what to do. I came here looking for someone, Jocelyn explained, taking a different approach. There is a connection between this location and Dalton, and I believe you understand what I'm saying. The name made Britt shudder just little, but Jocelyn recognized it. Dalton's up to something, she said. And you're a part of it. Britt did not respond immediately away. She rubbed her fingers down her face, suddenly appearing exhausted rather than hostile. When she finally met Jocelyn's eyes again, there was a brief moment of vulnerability. I didn't mean for this to involve anyone else, she told me. Especially not you. The air surrounding them moved, and the tension became more brittle and odd. Jocelyn had not expecting such a strange blend of regret and urgency. Perhaps denial or threats. But not this. She wasn't sure whether she could believe Britt, but she was confident she wasn't lying. Not entirely. Before Jocelyn could react, a loud crash sounded from the other side of the warehouse. Both of them froze. Footsteps followed, slowly and deliberately. Britt acted fast, grabbing Jocelyn's arm and pushing her behind a stack of crates. Stay quiet, she advised. Who is it? Jocelyn hissed. I do not know. But I wasn't supposed to be watched. They crouched close, with the only light coming from a flickering bulb above. The footsteps got closer and then paused. A tall and intentional shadow spread across the floor. Jocelyn's heart pounded against her ribcage so loudly that she was certain everyone out there could hear it. Britt removed something from her jacket. A small metal item that resembled a flashlight and a taser. What is that? Insurance. Jocelyn didn't get a chance to inquire further. The shadow shifted again and then a voice boomed out. Deep male mocking. You're not very good at staying hidden, Doctor. Britt's cheeks paled. Jocelyn felt her stomach drop. Do you know him? She asked, her voice low. Britt nodded grimly. And if he's here, this wasn't just a drop. The man moved into view. A towering figure in a gray coat, unshaven with icy, lifeless eyes. He carried himself as if he'd done this before, not fearful of being caught because he'd never been caught. I thought we had a deal, he told Britt. You said no one would follow me, Britt answered firmly. This was not part of the plan, the man said, his attention shifting to Jocelyn. And who is the girl? Britt moved slightly ahead of her. She's leaving. No, Jocelyn replied abruptly, rising up. I'm not. The man grinned faintly. You've got nerve. Jocelyn didn't back down. You've got something to hide. The man advanced, and for a brief moment, Jocelyn feared he might harm her. But Britt intervened again, holding up the device. One more step and I'll light you up. Do it, the man said, calling her bluff. But she wasn't lying. Britt activated the device, causing a startling flash of blue light between them, which stunned the man into taking a step back. It allowed them just enough time. Run! Britt shouted. They did not look back. They rushed through the containers, ducking and darting through the maze of darkness. Britt led the way, clearly understanding the arrangement better than Jocelyn. The man behind them shouted something incoherent, but no gunshot rang out. That was good. For now. They rushed out into the night air, panting and shaking. Britt dashed for a nearby automobile, which Jocelyn had never spotted previously, parked under some brush and almost concealed from view. We aren't going to the cops? Jocelyn asked, out of breath. Not yet, Britt replied. Jocelyn paused. I need to clean this up first. That man isn't just a supplier, is he? Britt looked at her as she opened the driver's door. No. He's not like everyone else. And now you're in it too. Jocelyn entered the car, her mind racing. She'd come here wanting to learn more about Dalton, and whatever secrets were being traded in whispers behind closed doors. What she discovered was a whole different web. One in which Britt Westbourne was entangled, whether she wanted to be or not. As the car accelerated down the road, leaving the warehouse behind, Jocelyn gazed out the window, trying to make sense of everything. Britt did not speak, and Jocelyn did not press her. Not yet. But she knew it wasn't over. Definitely not. By the time they reached the edge of town, Britt had pulled over, killing the engine. Do you want to know what's going on? She inquired finally. Jocelyn nodded. Britt looked at her deeply. And something softened in her face. Then you'll have to aid me. Because I believe things are going to grow worse. Jocelyn gulped hard. She wasn't sure where this was leading. But she couldn't walk away just now. Not when the truth was so close. Jocelyn did not respond right away. Her breath continued to come in weak bursts, and her ideas collided in her head, leaving no clear path ahead. She had followed the trail, hoping to shed light on someone else's secrets, primarily Dalton's. But she discovered something more darker and more terrifying than she'd anticipated. Now, sitting in the passenger seat of Britt's automobile, she realized how deep this rabbit hole had gotten. Why me? Jocelyn finally asked. Why not go see Jason or Sonny? Or the police? Britt gave a bitter laugh. What about the police? Half of them work for someone. And what about Sonny or Jason? Let's just say they wouldn't understand why I'd been working behind everyone's backs. Then make me understand, Jocelyn murmured, turning to face her directly. Britt grasped the driving wheel fiercely, as if to ground herself. This started months ago. I received a call from someone connected to a shadow network of doctors. People who have worked in war zones, disaster zones, and black ops. They required assistance carrying drugs, equipment, and even blood. Off the record. First, I assumed it was legitimate. Humanitarian even. But then I saw inconsistencies. Missing vials, rerouted deliveries, and anonymous payments. Drug trafficking? Jocelyn guessed. Worse, Britt replied. Human experimentation. Not in laboratories but on people. Some of the goods were not distributed to clinics. They went to folks who were conducting illicit trials and testing products that were not allowed anyplace. Gene editing, neural suppressants, and black market anesthetics. Jocelyn felt the color drain from her face. And Dalton? She whispered. He's a courier, Britt acknowledged. At least that's what I believe. He travels in and out, keeps his nose clean, and delivers items for them. Jocelyn clenched her hands. He told me he was out of this planet. He swore. He may not know, Britt added gently. Or he could be lying. Regardless, he's involved. And so are a lot of people who would prefer to keep this quiet. There was a long stillness between them. Jocelyn thought of Trina, Cameron, and everyone she loved in Port Charles. How many people were unknowingly brushing against this world? How many more evenings like this would she go through without knowing what she was really risking? So what should we do? She inquired. Britt drew a breath. We dug. Quietly. We find out who is truly behind it and what their ultimate goal is. We gather evidence, but we don't say anything until we have enough to bring the whole thing down. What if they come after us? They will, Britt stated without doubt. But by then we'll be ready. Jocelyn nodded, her resolve like a stone in her chest. She was scared. It would be foolish not to be. But she couldn't walk away. Not now. Not when the folks behind this operation were willing to risk their lives in the shadows. She saw Britt as more than just a disgraced doctor or hospital gossip. Now she was something else entirely. An ally in a conflict that no one else was aware had begun. And Jocelyn? She was prepared to fight.